Hello everyone. This is Elena Bartosh, your real estate investor. Today, my podcast, as usual, about private money in real estate. And today, I have really good guest, experienced real estate investor, Eric Howell. We will speak with Eric about how we all can leverage our retirement savings. Hi, Eric.
Hey, he caught me mid-sip. I'm ready to go though.
How are you? How is your day today?
It's been very productive.
Awesome. So what's going on right now in your business?
We got a big challenge coming up next week, so we're getting ready for that. It's going to
Mhm.
be amazing. We're really excited about that. Putting in a lot of work behind the scenes to get that rolling, but it is coming, and yeah, next week. I can tell you more about that later.
Beautiful. Yep,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. And please, Eric, could you please tell us a little bit more who are you? Because I believe not everyone knows who is Eric Howell,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
probably nobody. Probably nobody. So a little bit about me. I got started in real estate 2019. And long story short, I missed and lost like well over 100K in 2010 through 2016 because I listened to my loved ones, my family, everybody cared about me. And I didn't buy real estate like all my friends did while I was in the Air Force. So they all bought brand new construction, and yeah, they separated and got paid well over 100K in net profit from their sale, and we just paid off somebody else's mortgage. So several years later, got started in real estate, and about 3 years ago now, yeah, 3 years ago, wow. So 2022, I walked away from my air traffic controller career, and we've
Mhm.
been full-time real estate ever since, and we're building the Deal Boss project. So the Deal Boss project is all about helping people add rocket fuel to creating wealth in real estate,
Mhm.
but without all the shiny objects. There's too many shiny objects out there. So that's what we're doing right now because, me and you both, I think we talked about that last time we met where we invested so much money. Like I'm way over like 200K in like education and everything. I know, you're up there too, right?
Yep,
But
yep,
they're all
yep,
missing one
yep.
thing, and that's the vehicle. They never show you how to actually do the things. So that's what we're doing with the Deal Boss project, and that's mainly what I'm focused on now. So as far as my experience, a lot of flipping, wholesaling, and we built a really nice portfolio.
Mhm.
So now we just live off a portfolio and do what we will like. It's really nice.
I love it. I love it. Okay, let's hope for all real estate investors do the same to buy enough properties to live off pretty normal life, kind of passive income, kind of because it's still not realistic. We still need to manage it, right? Yeah. But sounds good, Eric. I know you're such experienced guy, and I believe when you started, you were leveraging your own retirement savings. Is it truth, or I'm mistaken?
No, so not really. I guess when we get started flipping, we used hard money lending, right? We used hard money and we used bank financing. Didn't have any savings. I mean, I'm still a young guy and I was young then too, so no, you don't have that much, right? So you got to go out and you got
Mhm.
to figure that out. And that's what you're helping people with, right? Learning how to raise money.
Yep.
Yeah. So with the retirement savings though, where that came in was whenever we first got started, um, one of the first courses I bought, that's how they sold me. They introduced what I'm going to be talking about tonight, which is the solo
Mhm.
401k. And it's how you can invest in real estate and not pay taxes on your profit. And it's absolutely amazing. But I
Yep.
couldn't start that away because I didn't have the startup, right? Like I was still struggling. So this is an
Yep.
very advanced strategy, but it's it's a game changer, especially if you like to keep more of your money.
Yep. So let's talk about let's go to the beginning of this story, and let's explain people what are the steps, what are the procedure, how people can use their money. So our podcast today really about why people don't have to keep their money on retirement accounts, even for 401k, because if we hold it, we'll lose it, right? And everyone realizes it. And not everyone really understands and knows we can use our even 401k without any penalties.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. 100%. Right. It's just, you have to discover the thing exists before you actually know how to actually execute it. Right. So the first step is discover that there is a such thing as a solo 401k, and you can absolutely 100% without a doubt go out here, flip a house and make $20,000 and not pay any taxes on that $20,000. And you do that using the solo 401k. But financial advisors, people who you pay to tell you how to invest your money, guess what they don't do? They don't make any money whenever you use a solo 401k investing in real estate. So why would they ever tell you in the first place? Right?
Absolutely. Yep. So
So,
how it
and
looks like where people
I do have like a PowerPoint slide deck that I put together just for your community, and we can break down. It shows like some of the nuances for solo 401k.
Perfect. Do you want to share your screen and
Yeah, you want me
show
to just
us
take
how?
off and turn this into a masterclass for solo 401ks?
Yep. You can
Awesome.
share your screen and right now. Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, share my screen. I have never shared my screen on here before. Let me see. Slides. Oh, so you can actually upload the file. Yeah. I've never used StreamYard before.
Yeah, this is a StreamYard. You can
Yeah.
share screen with StreamYard. Yeah, just execute buttons on the bottom around your screen. You can share your
And
screen.
share screen.
Yeah, you can.
All right. Yeah, let's do this. How's that?
Yes. Perfect. Let's do it. Perfect. I love it. Thank you.
Look at that. All right. Yeah, normally I present just with it on my actual screen, but yeah, this is super cool. So you want me to just jump in there and we'll turn it into a masterclass? Okay.
Please, sir, feel free to jump into your presentation.
All right, cool. So the hidden wealth strategy, how to use a solo 401k to invest in real estate tax-free. We're going to talk a lot about building wealth. One of the biggest issues in building wealth is taxes.
Yep.
So the IRS is quietly taking half of your deal. So if you make $20,000 on a deal, you're paying almost 50% taxes on that. And there are other ways you can mitigate it, but why not just pay zero? And that's what we're going to talk about.
I love it.
And stop me, Elena, too, as well, if you got any questions, and we can go deeper.
I will. Thank you so much. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a basic breakdown of it. So if we're going to flip a house for 50K and we are not using this wealth strategy, leveraging the solo 401k, in reality, we're going to be talking about IRAs, which is just a form of self-directed IRA. So like it's in a class of its own, but there are multiple different types. But the solo 401k is very special when it comes to real estate investing, and we'll get to why later, because it allows you to leverage a lot of things that you don't have access to without having this vehicle. So with taxes, you got federal, self-employment, and state tax, and that's going to eat your profit up. I'm sure you paid some taxes right before, Elena.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, they're no fun. Now, if we have that's just another example. And then let's go into and compare it to actual solo 401k. And the solo 401k, it's not taxed at all. So no federal, no self, no state tax, zero. So now you actually get to recognize all of that profit. And the
Mm-hmm.
entire thing stays inside of your 401k. And keep in mind, when we talk about the 401k, this is a retirement vehicle. So it's not meant now, right? Like, so I'm 36. So it's not meant like anything I can touch right now. Like, I can't touch it
Mm-hmm.
until I start to get to retirement age and hit that retirement age. But with the solo 401k, I'll show you something later where you can actually leverage it and borrow against it, which is super cool. But yet, when you pay interest, you're just funding your own 401k. So we'll talk about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the real world impact. So if we are flipping 3 to 4 homes and we're going to gross 150 to 200K, you're looking at paying taxes on roughly 80K. With solo 401k, again, you keep it all. And nothing about that I'm going to be talking about is anything special. It's all inside of the IRC or the code book for the taxes. Here's a little breakdown again, side-by-side comparison. You can see if you flip a home, you got 50K profit, you're going to be taxed almost half of that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even if you wholesale it, you're still almost going to be taxed half of that, but not with the solo 401k. And for anybody who wants to go do their own research, we put this together as well. Here's some of the tax code sources that you can actually go read. I always recommend going directly to the source. There's one thing I learned in the military: never take somebody's word for anything. It's called trust but verify. And trust what I'm saying, but go verify it with your own CPA, accounting, and then obviously the codes as well. And here comes the disclaimer that obviously we always got to give. So this presentation is for educational and information purposes only. I try to make it accurate. It's backed by laws and regulations, but either
Mm-hmm.
way, though, you should absolutely consult with your CPA, tax advisor. And every example and stories that I use is hypothetical or stories of my own. So don't expect for your results to be the same. And let's get started. So the 401k is a vehicle that's made for self-employed individuals. So in the IRS code, there's a book called Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. And it's an absolutely amazing book about taxes, but he talks about the tax code. And he's like, you got this giant book, but there's only a few pages that are written on how to pay taxes. The rest of the book, like the other 70% of the book, is written on how to not pay taxes. Right? So think about
Eric,
that.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, great question. Uh, After our podcast, could you please send me the name of the book author, and
Yeah,
I will
absolutely.
find this book online, and yeah, let me put link under this video so people will be able to get it and read it
Yeah,
in the
absolutely.
future. Okay.
Absolutely. But that's a really good mind shift that'll help you understand taxes. So me and my wife, we disagree about this all the time because I'm like, I can write off anything. She's like, no, like you can't write off Christmas presents. I'm like, it's a business event. It's like the tax code again, you can go extreme or you can play where you're at a disadvantage. And what I struggle with again with that book of tax-free wealth is just flipping that mindset of understanding that a very, very small portion of the tax code is actually written to pay taxes. And the solo 401k, again, is built for self-employed. All right. It allows
Mhm.
you to own your own business, to own an LLC and be the employer, but yet at the same
Mhm.
time, build you a retirement. So like you are the
Mhm.
employee, yet you are the employer. So it allows you to do both. And you can actually contribute
Mhm.
more with the employer, which is another way to save taxes. All right. Another cool thing is the checkbook control. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second, but it's very important for checkbook control because all solo 401ks are not created equal. And the issue is where you get your solo 401ks. And then at the end, I'll give you instructions on exactly like your next steps in order to like actually execute this. But
Perfect.
there are some solo 401ks where you'll go through and you're not going to have direct access to your funds. All right. So you want to have checkbook control. That way, literally, you have a checkbook that's for your solo 401k. And whenever you find a deal, you literally write a check. Isn't that cool?
Yep. Sounds really cool. Yep.
Yeah. So no full-time W-2 employees. That's another requirement, except for your spouse, obviously. So as I, go through this lesson, think about husband-wife team. All right. That's what we're mainly talking about. You can't have any W-2 employees. Contribution. So it literally has one of the highest contributions in all IRAs. So you can contribute up to $66,000 a year. All right. And then you can also choose traditional or Roth. And are you familiar with traditional and Roth?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I believe
for
that.
everyone that's not, so for everyone that's not traditional, you're taxed at the end. So whenever you actually pull the money out, then you pay taxes. Roth, you're taxed now. So before you put the money in, you pay taxes, and you never have to pay taxes on that money or the money that money makes again. So my opinion is always invest in Roth. And to overcome like, oh, well, I can just wait and pay taxes later. It's just like, do you really think the tax rate or the value of money is going to go up or down? Right. And it's constantly down. The value of money is constantly going down and tax rates constantly going up. Right. So again, keep that in mind.
Yep.
Now we're going back to the checkbook control. All right. So checkbook control, you're going to, if you do research and you don't use the source that I'm going to give you at the end of this, you're going to run into this where people are going to be custodians. And I did a lot of research. Like this took me, I don't know, it probably took me at least 3 weeks to like vet. I think I vetted 12 different providers and ended up, going with the source I'll give you at the end. But the reasons why is I had so much to learn. And I even actually signed up for several different accounts and had the paperwork going in, starting to, for it to be created. And then I found out what a custodian is. And again, we only know what we know. So if you don't know that a custodian isn't required, then you're going to get misled and it's going to cost you more money. Is that making sense?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So in real estate, you can use this for private lending. You can use it for flipping. You can use it for wholesaling. You can even use it to build your own portfolio. Okay. And get away from mutual funds. So, one of the worst experiences I had when I was 17, I flipped a truck and not like crash a truck. Like I bought a rough beat up truck and fixed it up and then, sold it for more than it's worth. And I had like $3,500. All right. And that was a lot of money for a 17-year-old. Right. And it just, I got $3,500 all at once. So I immediately go to my local Edward and Jones advisor. Right. And guess what he told me to do? He told me to put the $3,500 in a mutual fund.
Yeah.
And I left that $3,500 in a mutual fund for 7 years and ended up making $152. Right?
Yep.
Now, keep in mind, I was 17 and I got advised to put all my money into a mutual fund. I can't do the math, but if he would have told me to invest in stocks, like I had a chance to invest in Apple, Google, all these big businesses nowadays, that would have just, blew up that $3,500. But no, it was a mutual fund, which is super, super safe. All right. So I'm not a stock market guy at all. Real estate is pretty much it. So I'm biased.
Yep.
If anybody would like to screenshot this, this is a nice breakdown of commonly asked questions. I'll kind of slow down a little bit and do a comparison here. And Elena, if you got any questions, let me know.
I will.
All right. So can a W-2 income qualify? And the answer is no. All right. For solo 401k, not a W-2. Now, this is confusing Because if you're like I am, you have a W-2. Okay, that's not what it means. You can have a W-2, but you have to go out and you have to create earned income through a LLC. So you have to create a business. Okay, is that clear?
Yep.
So everybody that has a
Absolutely.
W-2 job, you can absolutely do this. It's just you have to create a business and earn income through your business. Cool?
Yep.
Can self-employment qualify? It's literally what it's made for. All right, like it's made for self-employed. All right, requires self-employment. Yes. All right. Income limits. There's no income limits, which is crazy. So what I'm going to talk about in a second, like it's hard for me to wrap my mind that around like I can literally just take money, make money, and never give Uncle Sam any of it, and it continues to grow forever. Okay. And it doesn't matter how much money I make versus a regular IRA, like you're capped out at 160K. All right. And the numbers changes. So don't hold me against that. But like the numbers always change, right? Like a Roth IRA, like they got caps and restrictions on it, but not a solo 401k. And then if you compare it to a regular IRA, which is this part right here where it says contribution limit, you know, you're limited to 7,000 to 8,000 a year. Like that's nothing, right? Like we pay more in insurance than that, right?
Yep.
But
Nothing.
for a solo 401k, you can contribute $66,000 plus more, which can get it up to 73,500. All right. And there's some nuances in here, and I'm not going to get into the nuances, but like just everything I'm touching now is going to be surface level, and it may feel like it's a lot, but it's really not. All right. It's very easy to do. It's just take this lesson and allow yourself to discover this amazing vehicle and then dive deeper into it and obviously get the answers you need as we move.
Yep.
Can you invest in real estate? Absolutely. That's what it's made for.
Eric, I just wanted to add for people who are watching us right now and who will be watching us in the future. If you still will have any questions to Eric regarding his presentation, regarding this information, I am going to put Eric's Facebook link under this video, and it will stay in my channel. So please feel free to reach out to Eric with your questions. So Eric, please.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd love to help anybody on here. Yeah. I mean, this is life-changing, guys. Like I can't stress the effect this can have on somebody's life once it's implemented, right? You got to implement it though. All right, here's the big opportunity. I've already said it multiple times. We're just going to beat it in the bush one more time. You can absolutely take your skills of being a real estate investor where you go out and you find off-market opportunities, you create a spread, and you can grow your retirement tax-free. Or you can absolutely do that. It's a self-directed IRA, which means you are the investor. There's just nuances. You have to learn how to navigate this, but it's absolutely, again, tax-free. You can build your portfolio in it, and the IRS is not going to be able to take anything, okay? And again, most people never hear about this because financial advisors, like why would they ever tell you this vehicle? Because every time you make money in this vehicle, they don't get paid.
Yep.
So why would they ever tell you? And most likely they probably don't even know about it because, you know.
Yep. Logical. It makes sense.
Yeah. So what's normal right now, right? Like your retirement. I was an air traffic controller. So I was told to put all my money in what's called the TSP. It's a thrift savings plan. And I actually started in the Air Force. So the Air Force has the same thing, TSP. And essentially it's a government IRA. And I tried to put every dollar I could in it, you know, living paycheck to paycheck, which is tough. We ended up taking all of our money that I had invested in that TSP, which was, you know, about 100K, and ended up rolling it out and into a solo 401k. And now it's like 20x, right? It's insane. So if you have an IRA, you can absolutely roll it into the solo 401k. And that's a great way to fund and get started. Now, if you don't have one, again, no problem. You can just start by investing whatever money or funds you have every month and start adding to it and let it compound over time, right? Because the compound effect is amazing. Like everything in life, you should try to compound.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So again, this is for any real estate investor. Even if you have a side hustle, don't worry about trying to be a big business or making 120, 200K a month. Like even if you only do one deal a quarter or one deal a year, you can still use the solo 401k and you can still recognize all of your profit.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is kind of a visualization of what it looks like. Again, you're just feeding it with the skills that you have earned, and you're watering it and recognizing the harvest. All right. Now, here's some of the issues.
It's awesome. It's
Here's some
awesome.
of the issues. Again,
Mm-hmm.
checkbook control. I'm going to beat that in the bush because checkbook control is absolutely something that I know every investor would like, unless you do not like having control of your money. Now, if you're like that and you don't like having control of your money, call me up. I would love to talk to you. Maybe help you out with that. But let me paint you a visual. So, checkbook control, you can get into a solo 401k where you have a custodian, and think of that custodian as a gatekeeper. And every time you need to make a withdrawal for an investment, you have to call that gatekeeper and they will say yay, nay, or and send it to you. And there's a delay. All right. I don't know if anybody's ever went to the auction or anything like that, or just ran across a deal where they need funds quickly. Like this is how you do that. Right. So having checkbook control, that is absolutely, for my opinion, one of the top priorities whenever you find a provider. Hey, do you guys provide checkbook control? And then the nuances. We're going deep into we're going deep into commingling and the business setup inside the Deal Boss project because it's a lot to learn. And I'm gonna throw some of this at you. And if you never heard it before, it's gonna be like, oh my gosh, like that makes sense, but like there's a lot of nuances. And that's where it's really important to like have a checklist. And that's something too, like if you guys would like a checklist, let me know. But the reason I'm saying that is commingling is probably the number one mistake every investor makes. And it's really hard not to commingle whenever you are just starting out. Matter of fact, it's almost impossible. All right. And whenever you start with a solo 401k, you have to create a bank account just for that solo 401k. All right. You cannot
Mm-hmm.
use your personal checking account at all to help the solo 401k out. And also you can't
Yep.
just pull money out of the solo 401k and put it into your bank account. But setting it up like this, you will absolutely have 100% access to every dollar in your 401k. Like it's literally in a regular bank account at Chase, and it's just named whatever you named your solo 401k and trust account. That's it. And you're going to have a checkbook for it, right? So, one of the things is if you set something up like this, you have to be disciplined, because if you do commingle, you can be hit with 100% tax. Not like you're taxed 100%, but you're going to
Mm-hmm.
be taxed as regular income on your whole 401k. Does that make sense?
Yep. Of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's super important because commingling, it literally loses all protection of LLC. And then also it loses all of your tax benefits. We talked about this
Yep.
earlier too, where you can fund it with the rolling, I think, existing IRA into it. All right. And you see that tip down there at the bottom. It says most cheap providers will give you a plan on paper, but no banking control. That's the checkbook control again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a
Mm-hmm.
custodian. All right. I'll probably have some custodians email me if they ever see this, but they'd be like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's their business model, right? They get a fee.
Yep.
Here's the simple steps. All right. So create a solo 401k plan. Make sure it's not custodial. Make sure you have checkbook control. Open a trust bank account. And this is also important. I just said it, but you got to make sure the bank account is named correctly. That's very important for tax purposes, audit purposes, et cetera. You want to make sure it's set up correctly. All right. And then this is optional, but I would absolutely create an LLC that is owned by the solo 401k. And I want you to paint a visualization of you sitting here and you have your bank account and you have income coming in. Your solo 401k is completely separate. So they can never touch. And this is extremely important. So your solo 401k is going to have its own LLC and its own bank accounts, and they operate independently and you can never help them, all right, at all. And you can never benefit directly from them. That's extremely important as well.
Cool. Very cool.
So after you get this
We
set
all
up,
have to know it.
yeah, after you roll some money in there, you're going to have, $50K in a bank account. All right. Now let's look at what a real deal would look like. So you use your skills and you find an off-market deal. And these are all just rounded numbers just for comprehension. But let's just say the purchase price is 50K, rehab's 20, and ARV or after repair value is 100,000. All right. I did put a note down here because most lenders will require minimum loan amount to be 100 to 120,000. And normally the reason that is because anything less than that, they actually lose money because of the origination fee, which is how they get paid. Cool. All right. So here's the numbers. Non-recourse hard money loan. A hard money loan is going to cover 80% of the purchase price, and they'll always cover 100% of the rehab. Again, earlier when I said you don't have to have a lot of money to use this strategy, and that's because you can go out and create relationships with lenders, and I'm going to share a few in a second, but you can create relationships with these lenders, and they're going to make sure that your rehab is covered. Because not having enough money to do the rehab, that's how deals go bad. All right. So now your solo 401k is going to pay that 20% on that 50,000, which comes to 10,000. All right. So you have 10,000 invested. This is again important because the rehab funds, we want to make sure that those do not ever come to you personally. So what I like to do is, as long as my provider allows me, is create a separate checking account. And again, it's going to be a checking account owned by the solo 401k. And that's going to be like my rehab account. And what this does, it allows accounting and like in case of an audit for you to be protected. So now your lender will always wire the funds straight into that account, and they're not mixed in with your actual solo 401k. It creates like a barrier, but also it creates another barrier from not being mixed into your personal banking. Does that make sense?
Yep. Absolutely. Yes, it's clear. Yep. Thank you, Eric.
Yep. And here's some hard money lenders. You got Titan Bank. Where's this at? You have to zoom in there. I can't really see them. I can give you a whole list though, but it's easy to Google these. There's literally business models built on lending to retirement funds just like this. And if you want to learn how to vet lenders, there's 3 questions right there just to write down and take a screenshot. And that's important so you can use your solo 401k. It's mainly just the non-recourse, right? And non-recourse just means that you're not personally reliable. So if something defaults on the loan, obviously the solo 401k cannot be reliable for that default. So you're looking for lenders that look at the property as its own and stand alone, not recourse, where they'll be like, yeah, I'll lend on that property, but then also I need a personal guarantee from you. So you can't do that. All right.
Yep. Clear.
Clear. All right. And now we're doing a rehab. All right. So this is, again, a little bit of nuances when we actually use the 401k, because how do you do the rehab without commingling? So again, this is where that extra checking account comes in. And now you're writing checks directly from your solo 401k, and you're paying all the contractors. You're paying for everything. So the way you
Mhm.
destroy your solo 401k is for you to use your credit card to fund anything on that deal, or you can't do it. Very important. You cannot go
Yep.
work on the deal. So if your solo 401k purchases a property and you're going to flip it, you cannot go over there and change the light bulb. All right. Because now
Mhm.
you're
Yep.
receiving personal benefit.
Yep. Logical and clear.
All right. So now at the end of it, we're going to exit on this house for 100K. All right. The loan purchase price, 50K, investor loans, 40,000. And the cost, solo 401k is 10,000, rehabs 20,000. You know, I don't even remember why they put this slide in there. We're going to skip over that one. That slide's supposed to be removed. Self-dealing is what we're supposed to be talking about. So self-dealing, this is again how you can get in trouble. All right, so it's the fastest way for you to just lose this benefit, and there are a lot of nuances on how you can lend, how you can move money, etc. So
Mhm.
earlier I talked about like, hey, you have to treat your solo 401k like a business on its own. Like you have to do that, because if you don't, it's going to be a hobby and you're going to end up self-dealing, which is commingling funds. You're getting a personal
Mhm.
gain. Wife is getting a personal gain. Like none of that can happen. All right. And you can see the list of what counts as self-dealing. All right. So paying for expenses again, selling the property. So
Mhm.
if you already own a property, you cannot give it to your solo 401k or sell it to your solo 401k. That cannot
Yep.
happen. That's self-dealing. All right.
Mhm.
Lending money from your solo 401k to your spouse, parents, kids, can't do that. All right. And it's called a
Mhm.
direct lineal or direct lineage. And what that means is like anything above you or in front of you, you cannot lend money to out of your solo 401k. So my mom and dad, their
Question.
mom and dad, etc. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Question. In case your spouse or your parents will buy property under LLC, we still cannot do it.
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
Self-dealing.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I mean,
Cool.
getting into nuances and like gray areas like that, like I mean, I just wouldn't do it, right? Because there is something that I'm going to introduce in a second where you can partner, and it gets a little fishy. But again, I want you to discover this that way you understand what to do. But I would just stay away from self-dealing, because the worst thing is to have a solo 401k with a couple of $1 million in it, and then all of a sudden you get hit with taxes, right? Like that'd be
Mhm.
pretty
Yep.
bad, right? So
Yeah.
let's not do
Makes
that.
sense.
Yeah. So with the lineage, um, again, directly behind or directly in front, but my wife's sister, I can lend to her because that's not lineage. That's off to the side.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
So my
Yep.
neighbor, right? I can lend to him, things like that.
Yep.
Um, you cannot hire yourself to do the work. This is something I went around and around about when I first started, because I am a big advocate on paying myself on my own deals. And the reason I do that is you just make more money. All right. But that's another strategy. But whenever you are flipping a home, you can pay yourself a management fee. And that's normally what I do, because I'll roll that management fee into the initial loan that I'll take out with hard money, private money, whatever that is. Because again,
Mhm.
I am labor, right? I am skilled,
Yep.
etc. Right. So I collect that money. But when you
Yep.
do this strategy, you cannot do that. All right.
Mhm.
So don't do that.
Yep.
All right. Using the property for your own personal use, you can't like spend a night at the property. All right.
Absolutely clear. Yep.
And here's the lineage, just so you can absolutely see it. The one I didn't cover is that any business own 50% by these people as well, right? So this gray area right here, you know, like you could get really creative and create LLCs where you own 49%, 40%, whatever that is. But like, again, it's just like, what are you really accomplishing? You know, like I would just stay away from it. But even yourself, you know, because one of the big questions is like, if I have a business partner and
Yeah.
we're generating deals, and they need to be paid. Well, if I own 50% of the company, they can't get paid, right? So like that's something else for you to kind of take in consideration, because in order for them to get paid, how do you cut that check without self-dealing? And
Right. Yeah.
that's probably something you don't want to fool with.
Yeah.
Right. Common mistakes. um, Again, this is getting into a pickle where you have a solo 401k and you're funding a flip, but you run out of money. All right. If that happens, I'll show you a couple of things you can do, but what you cannot do is pull money out of your own pocket. All right. Again, I'm talking about it a lot, but the co-mingling, like that's how you can absolutely destroy that. And
Yep.
the reason I'm talking about this so much is the last thing I would want is for somebody to roll over an existing IRA that they have no control over and not be educated in a way where they understand, oh, now you have complete control and you messed up. Cool. So extremely important. All right, here's what you can do. So if you get up underwater and let's just say you're doing a project and you purchase and funded that project with your solo 401k, right? This is not your project. It is your solo 401k's project. They're doing all the work, but they ran out of money. You can make a new contribution, but you can only do that up to that limit. So that's at $66,000. Okay. In order to bring your solo 401k whole. You can roll it over from another IRA, or you can get another non-recourse loan. Outside of that, it's pretty tough unless you own properties with your solo 401k where you can absolutely exit on an asset and collect that income to make you whole again. Is that clear?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. So if you run out of money, you can't go over here and personally solve that. So a little bit of
Yep.
planning to absolutely, you know, to execute on this strategy for sure. Which brings us to always over fun. So, you know, like investing, like this hypothetical deal that we're talking about where you pull 10,000 out and put it into a deal out of your solo 401k, but yet you still have 40,000 left over, right? Like you actually want to have scenarios like that, because what happens if it stays on market too long, or, you know, contractor burns you and now you got to hire another one and now you're 10, 20, 30K over budget, but you don't have
Yep.
funds to do it. And your lender is like, no, right? Now you can't pull yourself out of the hole. So make sure you're protected.
Yep.
All right. So this is a good question, right? Like if y'all have this question,
Yep.
like these are my questions. What if I profit more than I contribute? That's the whole purpose. Right? So you can contribute, which means I made $66,000 doing something else that my solo 401k has no connection with, and I contributed $66,000 to it. Okay, that's you can do that. Normal stuff. The thing that takes a little bit of time, or at least it took me a little bit of time to really comprehend, is the fact that I can take 50,000 and put it into a deal and make 100,000, and now I will have 150,000 in my solo 401k that's tax free because it's a Roth, which means I've already paid taxes on that 50K.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is good
So much
stuff.
to know. It's
Yeah.
great stuff. So much to know. Really, it's every investor should know, and not only investor. Whoever who has money on 401k, we should understand it. We don't have to lose money. We can invest it. Cool.
Yeah. Yep. So a little bit of recap here. With the borrowing from their solo 401k. So in a loan, you can borrow from a solo 401k, and that depends on your actual provider too. Like some of them are different, but you can borrow 50% of your balance, whichever is less of 50.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's either 50,000 or 50% of your balance, and then you're gonna pay yourself back prime plus a
Mm-hmm.
couple points, right? Which means whatever prime is plus 1 or 2%. And then you got a
Mm-hmm.
5-year balloon on that. And don't quote me on this, but if it goes over those 5 years, pretty sure what's going to happen is you're going to recognize tax on that. And that's just going to
Mm-hmm.
be, it's going to be recognized as income. All right. Option 2, again, borrowing from a lender. So using a non-recourse to fund your deals and move them forward. All right. How do you
Mm-hmm.
scale? Scaling is reinvesting your profits. All right. That's the name of the game. So maybe if you only have, let's just say you only have 10,000 set aside that you can actually dedicate to a solo 401k. So maybe you would want to
Mm-hmm.
start off by being some type of transactional lender where you're funding people's earnest money and stuff like that. Right. So you can lend $1,000, $5,000, whatever that is, make $1,000, $2,000, roll it back into your solo 401k tax free, build that nest egg up, and continue to do bigger and bigger deals. Like if you have to start low like that, you can absolutely do that. All right. And then if you're blessed to be able to roll it over and have 100K, 200K starting out from the beginning, well, now you can slide
Mm-hmm.
straight into building a portfolio with it. Right. There is one caveat where you cannot collect rent. All right. This is only active income. All right.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
collecting rent is not going to be pushed back into your solo 401k because they don't recognize it
Mm-hmm.
as active income.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Makes sense.
But lending, JV deals, wholesaling, flipping, all good things.
Yep.
All right. And then the action plan is checkbook. Make sure it's a checkbook. Fund it, roll it over, contribution. And the main one is learning direct to seller real estate investing, which is what we're teaching inside the Deal Boss Project, giving you the vehicle and everything. But direct to seller is the way to go. And the reason I say direct to seller is because there's so many shiny objects out there where you'll be all over the place. There's no focus. And again, it's harder to do strategies like this
Mm-hmm.
if you've got a bunch of middlemen, right? And then whenever a good deal hits, you can write your check and roll through. All right, and
Yep.
there's a link if y'all like to go and like get started with the solo 401k. Just dealbossproject.com/401k, and that is affiliate link. But they're going to take good care of you and set you up and everything. And I think there's Elena. I think there's like a $600 startup fee or $500 startup fee. So for anybody that gets
Mm,
started, that's kind of what you're looking at.
great.
Cool. Any questions?
I don't have any questions. Actually, to have more questions, I personally will need to rewatch this video a couple more times to get more from yourself, Eric. Yeah, cool, very cool. Thank you so much for presentation. Now I believe everyone should have a CPA friend, investor friendly, because to understand all this stuff, we really need good advisor. Yep, and
Yeah.
unless we will learn it.
The thing about advisors, it's hard to find good ones. Like it really is. It's
I
hard
mean
to find
CPA.
advisors that will
Yeah.
actually actually tell you strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time you're paying specifically for that service.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something for like new investors to really understand, or people who are getting started. Like when you're first getting started and you pay for a CPA, like that CPA, you're paying for them to do the minimum amount of work. They're not going to do tax strategy. All right.
Yep.
They're not going to look at your books and just like show you this stuff. Yeah. Sorry. I get
Yeah.
passionate about this because it's,
It's very
we
cool
got to
information. Thank you so
make,
much, Eric. Thank you. Yeah, I know. You spent probably months, days, years learning all this stuff, and now you just gave it to us. Cool.
yep. Get
Cool.
value.
Yeah, this is the point. So, guys, if you're still watching us, if you still have questions, please feel free to ask in the chat because we probably have couple another minutes until our podcast will be done. And thank you so much, Eric, for all information. Honestly, I will go ahead and rewatch it again, maybe a couple times, to get as more as possible from you. Thanks so
Awesome.
much.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you having me. This is fun. For sure. Yeah. So are you going to get one
Cool.
started?
I
Are you
will.
going to get
I
one
will.
started?
I will.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're
Absolutely. Of
lending,
course.
right? Like you're lending on deals?
Not yet, but I'm going to. Yep. One day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yep.
getting started, right? Like
Sure.
it's all about getting those puzzle pieces moving. So
Yep. Yep. We have to learn a lot. Yeah. And
yeah.
still, life is too short. We have to save this money. We don't have to lose them. This is the point. Yep. This
Yeah.
is the point why we have to learn. Okay. Thank you so much, Eric. A
Absolutely. Stay
lot.
blessed
You
by the
shared
best.
so much. Thank you for being today with us. And guys who will be watching us in the future, please don't forget, you will have Eric's social media link under this video. So you can go and ask him questions.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much, Eric. Bye-bye. Guys, thank you so much for being today with us. It was a great podcast. So much information. So I really believe, personally, I will rewatch it a couple of times at least to get whole information. And I really appreciate Eric for being today with us. And have a good night, everyone.